I come from the darkness of the pit.
Is there danger? I stand for the light. The light is my strength. I'm here to help.
Wait till you see me in action.
The light is my strength. I'm here to help. Justice shall be done. Certainly. Justice has come for my father, the king. For honor. Justice has come for my father, the king. A sound plan. Of course. A sound plan. Of course. A sound plan. Certainly. For honor. A sound plan. Of course. Justice has come for honor. Of course. Certainly. Of course. Certainly. A sound plan. Of course. A sound plan. Certainly.
Greetings, my lord.
Give me something to do.
Our warriors are engaged.
Feel my wrath. For honor. Betrayer of the light. You are possible. Feel my wrath. Certainly. Of course. For honor. For my father, the king. Certainly. Of course. Certainly. A sound plan. You are past test. I'm here to help. For honor. A sound plan. Certainly. A sound plan. Of course. Justice has come. A sound plan. Certainly. For honor. Certainly. Feel my wrath. A sound plan. For honor. A sound plan. Certainly. For my father. For honor. I stand. A sound plan.
First blood.
An allied champion has fallen.
I'm here to help. Of course. For honor. Certainly. The light is my strength. Justice shall be done. Is there danger? You are past redemption. A sound plan. Of course.
Double kill.
The light is my strength. Is there danger? A sound plan. For honor. I stand for the light. Certainly. A sound plan. Found. Justice shall be done. You are past that. Betrayal of light. For my father, the king. Certainly. Of course. For honor. Of course. For honor. A sound plan. Justice is coming. Light is my strength.
Killing
For honor. A sound plan. For honor. Of course. For honor. A sound plan. For honor. A sound plan. Of course.
Our allies
I stand for the light. Is there danger?
dominating.
Certainly.
An allied champion has fallen.
I'm here to help.
Our allies' town
The
needs
light
help.
is my strength. Of course. Certainly. For honor. Certainly. For honor. Of course. Certainly. For Lord Oran. For honor. For my father, the king. Certainly. Of course. Certainly. A sound plan. Of course. A sound plan.
Double kill.
Certainly. The light is my strength. For honor. Certainly. For honor. A sound plan.
Our allies' town needs help.
For honor. A sound plan. Certainly. I'm here to help. For honor.
Our
A sound
allies'
plan.
town needs help.
Of course. Certainly. You are past redemption.
Killing spree.
I stand for the light. A sound plan. Certainly. The light is my strength. A sound plan.
An allied champion is fallen.
A sound plan. Of course. For honor. Of course. Certainly. A sound plan. For honor. For my father. Certainly. Justice is coming. For honor. Of course. Certainly. For honor. Of course. Your danger? A sound plan. Of course. A sound plan. Of course. For honor. A sound plan. Certainly. A sound plan. For honor. Justice shall be done. The light is my strength. Of course. I stand for the light. For honor. Of course. Lord Around.
Our allies' town
Certainly. A sound plan. You are past redemption. Certainly. Of course. Certainly. Of course. A sound plan. Certainly. A sound plan. Of course. Certainly. A sound plan. Certainly. Of course. A sound plan.
Our warriors
I'm here to help.
Triple kill.
Our allies' town needs help.
Ultra kill.
Allied champion has fallen.
I stand for the light. Certainly.
Our allies' town needs help.
Of course. I'm here to help. Is there danger? Sound. Of course. Certainly. Of course. For Lord Oran. A sound plan.
Double kill.
For honor. Of course. For honor. A sound plan. Of course. For honor. I stand for the light. I'm here to help. Certainly. Justice shall be done. I'm here to help.
Unstoppable.
Of course. Certainly.
Our allies' town needs help.
Justice has come. Of course. For honor. A sound plan. Certainly. A sound plan. Certainly. A sound plan. Certainly. A sound plan. Of course. A sound plan. Certainly. The light is my strength. For honor. Of course. Certainly. For honor. A sound plan. Of course. Certainly. A sound plan. Certainly. Of course. Certainly. A sound plan. Of course.
Our allies' town
Certainly.
Monster kill.
An allied champion has fallen.
The light is my
Double
strength.
kill.
Is there danger? The light is my strength. I'm here to help. A sound plan. Certainly. A sound plan.
Welcome to our village.
The light is my strength. I'm here to help. For honor. A sound plan. Certainly. A sound plan. Of course. A sound plan. For honor. Justice shall be done. Of course. For honor. A sound plan. Certainly. A sound plan. For honor. Of course. For
Our
honor.
allies' town needs help.
A sound plan. For honor. For Lord
Dominating.
Of course. For honor. Of course. For honor. A sound
Godlike. Killing spree.
Our allies' town needs help.
Killing spree.
for honor. I stand
Our
for the
allies' town needs help.
certainly. Of course. A sound plan. Certainly. Of course. For honor. I'm here to help. Certainly. Of course. For honor. Certainly. A sound plan. Certainly. A sound plan. Certainly. Betrayal of the light. Justice shall be done. A sound plan. For honor. Certainly. For honor.
An allied champion has fallen.
Of course. A sound plan. Certainly. A sound plan. Of course. Certainly. For honor. Certainly. Of course. A sound plan. For honor. A sound plan. I stand for the light. Certainly. A sound plan. Of course. A sound plan. For honor. A sound plan. Certainly.
Our allies' town is
My
engaged
strength.
in.
For my father, the king. For honor. Of course. A sound plan. Of course. For honor. Certainly. For honor. Certainly. For Lord Orion. Of course.
Double kill. Killing spree. Triple kill.
I stand for the light. Justice shall be done. I'm here to help. Of course. For honor. A sound plan. Justice shall be done. Of course. Certainly. A sound plan. Certainly. A sound plan. course, a sound plan. Of course, a sound plan. Certainly. For honor. Of course, for honor. A sound plan. Of course, a sound plan. Certainly, a sound plan. For honor. Of course, certainly.
Our allies'
Foul.
town needs help.
For honor. Of course, a sound plan. Of course, certainly. I'm here to help. A sound plan. Of course, for honor. Of course, certainly. A sound plan. For honor. Certainly. Certainly.
Dominating.
Of course. Certainly. For honor. A sound plan. Certainly. Justice shall be done. Of course. A sound plan. Of course. For honor. Of course. A sound plan. Of course. For honor. A sound plan. Of course. Certainly. For honor. Of course. Certainly.
Spider sense.
For honor. Of course. For honor. Certainly. A sound plan. For honor. Of course. A sound plan. For honor. A sound plan. Father the King. I stand for the light. Of course. For honor. Certainly. For Lord Oran. Justice is come. For Lord Oran. Of course. A sound plan. Of course. Certainly. A sound plan. Certainly. For honor.
Killing spree. Holy shit. Double kill.
An allied champion has fallen.
Is there danger? A sound plan. Of course. Justice shall be done. Certainly. You are past redemption. For honor. A sound plan. Is there danger? A sound plan. For honor. Of course. For honor. A sound plan. Of course. For honor. Certainly. Justice is come. For honor. A sound plan. I stand for the light. For honor. Of course. Certainly. Of course. Certainly. For honor. Certainly. Of course. A sound plan. Certainly. A sound plan.
Double kill. Holy shit. Triple kill.
Our allies' town needs help.
Justice shall be done. For honor. A sound Certainly. Of course. Certainly. For honor. Certainly. Of course. For honor. Of course. For honor. A sound plan. For honor. A sound plan. Certainly. Of course. For honor. Certainly. A sound plan.
Triple kill!
For honor. I'm here to help.
Our allies' town is
Certainly.
falling.
Of course. For honor. Of course. A sound plan. For Lord of Of course.
Double kill! Holy shit! Double kill!
For honor.
Our allies'
Triple kill! Ultra kill!
Compacted.
Rampage!
An allied champion has fallen. Our allies' town needs help. Our allies' town needs help.
Of course. Certainly. For my father, the king. For Lord of
Double kill!
I stand for the light. Of course. For honor. Is there danger? Justice shall be done. The light is my strength. Of course. I stand for the light. Sound plan. Of course. A sound plan. Certainly. Of course. A sound plan. Betrayal. Justice is come. For honor. Certainly.
Double
A
kill!
sound plan. Of course. A sound plan.
Killing spree! Owning!
Certainly.
Dominating!
For honor.
Double
A
kill!
sound plan. I'm here to help. For honor. The light is my strength. I'm here to help. Of course. A sound plan. Certainly. A sound plan. Certainly. For honor. Of course. A sound plan. Certainly.
Killing spree. Double kill.
An allied champion has fallen.
Of course. For honor. A sound plan. You are past a light is my strength. Of course. A sound plan. Of course. A sound
Allied's town needs help.
betrayer of light. A sound plan. For honor. I'm here to help.
Dominating.
I stand for the light. Of course. A sound plan. Of course. Certainly. Of course. Certainly. A sound plan. Of course. Certainly. Of course. A sound plan.
Our allies'
course.
town needs help.
Certainly. A sound plan. Of course. Certainly. For honor. Justice is come. Justice shall be done. Of course. For my father, the king. Is there king? Certainly. For honor. Of course. A sound plan. Certainly. Of course. Betrayer of light. For honor. Of course. For honor. Of course. Certainly. A sound plan. Certainly. Of course. Certainly. For honor. A sound plan. Certainly. Of course. For honor. I stand for the light. Certainly. Not enough. A sound plan. For honor.
Double kill.
An allied champion has fallen.
I wish only to serve. Is my aid
Is there
required?
danger? What is your wisdom? Justice shall be done. Certainly. I'm here to help. For honor. Justice shall be done. Certainly. Of course. A sound plan. Certainly. A sound plan. Of course. Certainly. For honor. You are past redemption. Foul game. Of course. For honor. Certainly. A sound plan. Certainly. A sound
Killing spree. Dominating.
Of course.
Double kill.
Of course.
Mega kill. Triple kill. Unstoppable.
An allied champion has fallen. Our allies' town needs help.
I'm here to help. A sound.
Wicked sick.
A sound. Of course. A sound. For honor. Certainly. A sound plan. For honor. Of course.
Our allies' town needs help.
A sound. Of course.
Monster kill. Double kill. Triple kill.